Hello everyone! Welcome to another Worldedit tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to use masks in Minecraft Fast Async Worldedit. A mask is simply a restriction on an edit where blocks are placed. It is extremely useful for controlling what blocks are placed exactly where when you are building, and I use masks all the time in most of my creative videos. There are two types of masks that we are going to be talking about today. The first is a regular mask, which is local. It applies to only the brush you are holding at the time that you type it. The other type is a global mask, or Gmask for short. Global meaning it applies to everything, no matter what brush you were holding when you type the command. Let's start with a simple mask. I have two brushes in my hand right now. The first is a diamond one that is a sphere for orange wool, and the second is a gold axe that is a sphere for magenta wool. We're going to undo both of those, and let's apply a mask to only the diamond axe. In order to do that, I'm going to type /mask, and I am going to mask it to the stone, which in 1.12 or lower is ID of 1. If you're playing in newer versions, you'll just have to type out the full name, so you'll type stone. I am now going to paint this brush over here, and you'll see that no matter what I do to this grass, it will only affect the stone. Even if I come over here, it won't affect the red wool, it won't affect the grass, it'll only affect the stone. But if I take my other axe in my hand, and I try to use this, it'll go anywhere. It affects air, it affects grass, it affects stone, it affects wool, it doesn't care. That's because that mask is not global. It only applied to the brush that I was holding when I typed it. If I would like to turn off the mask that I have just put on to my diamond brush, all I have to do is type /mask again, and this will disable the mask. Now, when I click, it affects everything once again. Let's do this again, but this time with a global mask. I have my brushes same as before, but this time I'm going to type /Gmask and 1 again. This will mask everything that I type to stone. So when I use this brush, it is masked to only stone, and when I switch to my gold brush, which I wasn't holding when I typed the command, it is also masked to only affect stone. To disable a global mask, you do the same thing that we just did with the masks. We simply type /Gmask and then nothing, and that'll disable our global mask. Let's say we would like to mask both stone and grass. We can do that very simply. I'm going to type /mask, and then stone, and then a comma, no space, and then 2. Or if I write it out, stone, comma, grass. This will mask this brush that I'm holding to affect both stone and grass, but it's not affecting air, and it won't affect the wool that I have laid down. It will only affect stone and grass. Now, let's say I want to mask everything except air. So, for example, I don't want my brush to come out like this. I want it to affect all of the blocks, but I'm not going to put a comma between every single block in Minecraft. That's a pain. That's going to take forever. So there's a way to get around this. All you have to do is mask your brush to !air. That will mask this brush to everything except air. So now when I paint with it, it affects everything that I click on no matter what, but it will not affect air blocks. All of the commands I just mentioned can also be done with a global mask. Let's go over the global mask now, shall we? So I'm going to go ahead and Gmask all of my commands to stone. Now anything I type should only affect stone. That includes both of my brushes, like so, but it'll also include any other command I type. So for example, if I select everything in this little square that I've made here, and let's type some different commands. Let's say maybe I want to replace all of this with gold. Well, it worked, but even though we selected the entire thing, only the stone blocks got replaced. Let's say we want to set diamond. Well, it worked, but same thing, it only affected the stone. This is going to be true for any command I type at all while I have a global mask enabled. There are quite a lot of global masks and regular masks that can be applied to your block movements. I'm not going to be able to cover every single one in this tutorial, but I'm going to go over a couple of my favorites with you, and I'll leave a link down below that you can click on to see a list of all the rest of them if you're interested. One of my favorite masks to use in Minecraft is masks that affect exactly where blocks get placed in relation to other blocks. So for example, let's do this with Gmask. Let's Gmask everything that is above grass. So I'm going to use the greater than sign and then 2 for grass. Remember, if you're in higher versions, just type Minecraft grass. Now, what's going to happen when I use this brush is anything that is above grass, like right here or right here, is going to be affected, but nothing else will be affected. So if I break this, you can see that the grass itself is still fine. Only the air directly above grass is being affected here. This is an extremely useful command, but as you can see, this means that anything above grass is being affected, not just air. That also means this wall that is sitting above grass is being affected. If this is something that you do not want, you can double this Gmask up with a mask. So for example, if I now mask this brush to only affect air, then it means that it will be global masked to affect above grass, and it will be masked to affect only air. So now when I come over here, you can see that it is working on the grass, but it will not replace any of this orange wool that we have in place. It will only affect air. Similarly to the greater than sign, we can also use the less than sign in a global mask. So let's do Gmask anything less than let's do less than stone. So anything below stone will now be replaced. Any air block, that is, because we have also masked this to only affect air. So now, as you can see, when I paint along here, any block that is below stone gets replaced to our brushes, just like so. Another mask that is extremely useful involves this little squiggle symbol. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, actually. I'm sure you guys can tell me in the comments down below. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a global mask to anything that is next to our cyan terracotta that we have laid down here. So I'm going to type that in, and now when we use these brushes, it will only affect anything that is directly next to this cyan terracotta. Now you'll notice it is also affecting air blocks. So basically, let's go over the commands that we just covered. So we have the greater than sign, which replaces above a block. We also have the less than sign, which replaces below a block. And then finally, we have the little squiggle, which is going to replace all the way around any block. I find this command the most useful when doubled up with a mask. In this case, I'm going to be masking stone because that is the block that I want to be affecting to get nice borders around all of these shapes. So now when I click with my brush, I will only be affecting any blocks that are right on the edge of this. This can make a really cool pattern in a lot of cases. I use it quite a lot when using terrain. Another advanced Gmask that I would like to talk about is the surface mask. So I'm going to type Gmask #surface. This means that any brush I use will only affect the surface blocks, meaning a block that is also touching air. Now when we use our brush on this mountain, like so, we'll see that any block touching air was indeed changed to our orange wool. But if I go ahead and break them, you'll see that right below there is still stone, so it only affected the surface blocks. Another useful global mask is the region mask. I'm going to do Gmask #region. And then I'm going to select a region with my Worldedit wand. So I've selected the red border that you can see here. This means that with this mask enabled, this brush is only going to affect anything that in this region that I selected. So if I accidentally click over here, it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't ruin anything if I forget that I clicked and didn't undo. I can click freely within this region, but if I click on the edge, it does not leave the region that I selected. This is such a useful mask if you're going crazy with brushes especially. Alright, I have one more mask to show you all before I end this tutorial, and that is going to be the Simplex mask. Simplex is extremely useful for creating noise patterns on terrain. I'm going to do //gmask #simplex. Now we need to put numbers after this one, unlike with our previous masks. We need to put a scale, a minimum, and a maximum. In square brackets, I'm going to set my scale to be, let's do 5. And I'm going to set my minimum at 1 and my maximum at 30. Then I'm going to type that in. Then I'm going to select this mini little hill that I have here using pose 1 and pose 2. Now all I have to do is type a command and it will be forced to only use the simplex. So I'm going to type / replace stone with terracotta. Let's go with cyan terracotta 159.9. And when I type that in, you'll see that I get this fancy noise pattern here. Depending on what numbers I put on the simplex, I will get a different noise pattern every time, so you can vary this to your own needs. For example, let's change our simplex scale to be 10 and type the command again. This time, you'll see that the little dots that appeared within the terrain are much, much larger. I really recommend playing with this as it is a lot of fun. And when combined with some of the other masks that we learned today, you can really get a cool effect. For example, let's use that command that we showed earlier to place blocks next to it. I'm going to select the entire mountain and I'm going to Gmask anything that is next to 159.9. Then I'm going to pick up a brush because I want to also mask this to be stone. So I'm going to do a brush sphere of bedrock with a size of 50 just to make sure I have everything covered. Then I'm going to mask this brush to only affect stone. So now we are running both a Gmask and a mask. Now when I click on my mountain here, only stone blocks that are surrounding this cyan terracotta get affected. And I think this gives a really, really cool effect to terrain when used differently. I mean, you have to actually put some time into it, and I'm not going to do that in a tutorial, but I will link a video at the end of this video where I use this to create some mountains. And with that said, that is all I have to teach you guys about masks today. I hope you were able to learn something from this tutorial, and I will be sure to link all of the commands down in the description down below so that you can simply copy and paste them. Thank you so much for watching. I have one more thing to show off right before I end the video. This is a build that I'm working on currently, and you'll notice that I use a lot of weird blocks when creating stuff like that. This is because I use masks all the time. So for example, if I want to only affect the tree in the middle here, all I have to do is mask a gold block. I don't have to type out a bunch of long commands. So I try to keep my builds in these sort of simple patterns until I need to get into the details. This makes running commands quite a lot easier, and it also helps me to visualize things a little bit better. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everyone! I hope to see you again in the next video. Let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see more tutorials and what you would like to see those tutorials on. Bye-bye, everyone!